Cup clutcher, anything them go for. Gucci Louis Vuitton, anything them go for. Cup clutcher. London, Birmingham, headman tag. But shirt about the jeans, match with a polo, what bad. Go check your stats season.
Welcome back to episode 3 of the Stats Plus podcast. And I'm back, your host with the most. I took a vacation off from the last week while these guys were interviewing some joker.
You never took a vacation.
We saw you in the meeting, you know.
This guy came late.
Okay, and this week we're presenting episode 3 with our first professional guest, Stats Plus Calvin Wright. So, how's your guys' week?
Who's Calvin Wright?
What? You're asking too much question. Wait, what?
Yeah, how was your guys' week without me while I was off?
Great. So
Yeah, what's the bother talk?
Okay, well, my week they class still, you know. I'm representing the great goal and representing the black and gold because over this past week Jamaica had their first Nations League match against Cuba. A couple of us were in attendance. What do you think about it, guys?
terrible game.
No, it was a good game still. I was entertained.
When I was there, the atmosphere was really good.
Yeah.
You were that day.
Not there, bro. No, but it was nice to see Palmer. Like I feel like that's probably the closest I'll come to see like Pogba playing in real life.
David,
Yo,
Case Palmer.
I can't. That's the first time you ever played with. That's the first time I ever seen.
yo, put respect on Russ.
Who?
Put respect on Russ, bro.
Oh.
Russ.
Right, no, you can't call him that. He's in elevate now. I'm proud of him. And the last game.
The last game him did good too.
I don't remember what we played. We should have won by more.
Honduras.
Yeah,
Win 2-1.
You know,
Yeah.
It's a change. We're improving.
But why do you guys think we improved?
Wait.
As in like,
Really?
as in from like last, like I remember the last time we were in the World Cup qualifiers and we were.
Oh boy.
So why do you think change?
We need a
You know what?
That's
Yeah, you know what? The midfield looks like more solid. I think McLaren coming in, like, I always like, I low key kind of, I like it and I don't like it because he's up no play kind of more English. Where I see the
I see the vision still. Like I see the man dropping deep and going to the wings and making runs.
there's a lot of rotation. No, but honestly, I was actually just glad to be able to have a whole match in Jamaica because we don't get a lot of them. So like getting to go there, seeing the man in live, although we never get the result, I was still kind of like, you know what? At least I can.
It just fun. It's just fun in bleachers. You know when the man
yeah.
misses it and he just everybody comes.
Yeah, Nicholson missed a bad one, and the crowd reaction.
Antonio miss, Low miss.
Yeah, just to get the experience of being a football crowd.
It just feels better when they miss. Yeah, make you anticipate more. When they score, when they score, they always play worse. I rather them miss.
Yeah, I disagree wholeheartedly.
Moving on.
Okay, yeah, moving on. Okay, we've gone over Jamaica match, McLaren. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we're going to go into the second half of the pod now with our first ever guest, Calvin Wright. Calvin Wright is a PhD candidate in finance and business economics at USC. His academic path includes studying at Lafayette College, UC Berkeley, and Université de Paris, with professional experience at Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, and Google. Calvin also founded the Caribbean Summer Schools program, which mentors Jamaican students for top US universities. So, welcome to the pod, Calvin. You're our first guest. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, okay. So, first of all, would you say that intro kind of sums up who you are and what you are as a person?
I mean, unfortunately, yes, right? So, it's funny. So, I actually recently just became a PhD candidate.
Oh, you got it.
I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know if you know what that means. And so, there's PhD student and PhD candidate, then you have a doctorate. So essentially, I had to pass this exam where you write a paper and then you defend it in front of the entire faculty and they vote. if you get more yeses than no's, and they say in the program, if you get more no's, they ask you to leave, and they might give you a master's on your way out, or they might just tell you to go about your business kind of thing. So yeah, so
Okay,
I think
what type of
the
paper you
last
read?
2 years of my life, what was that?
What type of paper?
So my paper was about like corporate litigation, and so, for example, if you know Tesla, you know that Elon Musk kind of gave himself a $55 billion compensation package. He was paid that for about 10 years, and he was sued by like shareholders, and so judges have like a bias and can use machine learning to kind of detect judges' biases against corporations or firms. And so my paper was just like looking into what that bias might be and how it affects like firms or consumers, people like Elon Musk, that kind of thing.
You know how much no's you got, or how much like yeses?
I don't know, but I know I passed. That's the only that's the
that's
only
all I'm
important thing.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, you can get a pass, fail, I think a high pass, but most
Oh, that's
people
where
don't get a
it
high
come from.
pass.
That's where
Yeah,
it comes
so
from.
most people don't get a high pass, right? The expectation is you get a pass, and that's kind of it. A high pass is more like your paper is like ready or scholar, expert kind of thing.
Oh.
So yeah, that pretty much sums up everything.
Okay, so we're going to go back to the beginning, right from when you're born, pretty much your early life. So, first question I want to ask, growing up, what did you think you were going to be?
That's a funny question. Honestly, I mean, I I grew up in like on Watton Park Road in Jamaica, so the ghetto, right? And
So
when
you
you're
say
kind of smart, I mean, really. But when you're kind of smart, everybody thinks that, oh, you should be prime minister, and so I had in my head that I was going to be prime minister. I have no interest in that right now. But at one point, I wanted to be a teacher because that was also like the only profession you kind of have access to. Who now, the on the roadside, going to school for whatever. You just don't have much access to professions, and so I remember one day somebody told me teachers don't make any money; they're broke, and so I was like, all right, say less. I will not be a teacher. Let me be a lawyer. And so actually, at the end of high school, I got the Burger King scholarship to study law at UWI. Turned it down to instead pursue. I go abroad and to take a gap year.
Yeah.
And at the time I was doing that, my friends at UWI were studying econ, and I wanted to do French. I think I came like first. Yeah. So I took French in like Cape. I did French, law.
Wait, what was the
English was
top?
in
French
English.
law.
Hold
What?
Hold it there,
Yeah,
hold
so
it there. So, what Cape subjects did you do?
I did French, law, and literatures in English. So I was not like a science person in college, in high school. I mean, I remember one time we were supposed to draw like a heart in grade 9 biology, and the man gave me like an 8 out of 20. I was like, all right, that's a clear sign.
That's everybody's thing.
I should not get going to that. And so yeah, I never wanted to do it. I mean, I think the most science I learned is math, like add math.
Cousin, wait. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you regret those subjects?
For add math?
No.
Law,
History,
French.
law.
I actually don't at all. So in fact, I actually wanted to study French in college. So in high school, I came like first in the Caribbean. Okay? I just like loved French for some reason. And I wanted to like, go to Paris and like to the world and
You want to translate?
Yeah, I wanted to just like know. I don't know. I really like languages and like.
So it's just a passion kind of thing.
Yeah, and so in college actually I have a degree in French. So I have a degree in economics and I also have a degree in French. And so
Start in French right now.
j'ai un diplôme en français.
Yes.
I mean, so yeah, so I mean, I did that, took a year off, went to law school, applied to a bunch of colleges, got into a few of them, chose Lafayette.
Why?
How hard was it like back then?
How hard? So I actually got to, I think you, for example, now, Bryce, you work with people who know what they're doing. At the time, I wasn't really getting great advice when I was applying. I realized, for example, I remember when I think I was like a pretty good student, but I feel like everybody, you guys all go to Campion, I assume, right?
Yeah.
I think everybody, I was probably like an average Campion student, right? I went to George's, probably I was like head boy and like valedictorian at George's, but I feel like I'd have probably been like a fishing the pond at Campion. And so I got advice to apply to like Harvard and Princeton and all these fancy schools. At the time, they had subject tests. Subject tests were required for some schools, so you have to take like
SAT subject.
math.
SATs?
Yeah, so they had like chemistry, SATs, bio, math, French. And I remember I did not even take one, and I was applying to schools that required them. So I just got like really bad advice. And so back then it was more hard. But that's actually what inspired me to go into the industry to help students as well, just because I had to figure things out myself. I really applied on my own. And I did all right, you know, got into a few decent schools. I think my priority was funding. I kind of had to get good funding, otherwise it wasn't going to happen. And Lafayette actually wasn't my best offer. My best offer was from Holy Cross, College of the Holy Cross, which is a decent liberal arts college. It's in Massachusetts. Actually, the Campion actually has a scholarship program with Holy Cross, because Holy Cross is a Jesuit institution, and so is George's. And so you should also apply to schools. This is advice. You should also apply to schools that are more likely to give you funding. That way you can negotiate with other schools once you get funding from your safer schools. Right?
That's true, to like match it.
And so that's what I did. So I asked Lafayette to match it. I asked Dartmouth to match it as well. Dartmouth said no.
You got to do that.
So I ended up going to, I asked Columbia said no. Not Columbia, NYU. NYU said no. Columbia, I was waitlisted. So yeah, but I honestly believe I went to the right place. I feel like, and I think I remember the day I was on Lafayette's campus. I was like, yeah, this is where I'm meant to be. And I had a great time there, you know, because I have a tendency to give unwarranted advice. But I was at Lafayette, and I think I told David and Bryce in my class, it's read what you make of the situation, right? So I was at Lafayette. I got a chance to intern at Google, Bank of America. These internships are reserved for people from like the Ivies. They call them target schools. And so to break into like tech or break into Wall Street and consulting, those like high paying jobs, you know, it might be to your benefit to be at a place where you can stand out, as opposed to just like lost in the sauce at some bigger school. And so I think that was really helpful for me. So yeah, if you guys ever interested into tech, Wall Street consulting.
You interned at Bank of America?
Yeah, so that was how I actually got into finance was I had a friend from Campion who did sixth form at George's, who went to Howard, and so I took a gap year, so she was a year above me.
Yeah.
And she told me that she did an interview for Goldman Sachs, which is a bulge bracket bank. And they flew her from DC to New York for the interview, put her in a hotel the night before, paid for her food, consultation. I gave her a gift card with like money on it to just pay for food during the consultation. So I was like, oh, say less, I want to do that, right? And so I applied literally for the same position just to get that. That was kind of how I got into finance. And I went to interview, embarrassed myself. So those of you who did CSSP knew the question I asked you, which was, what is the sum of numbers between 1 and 10? How was your process for getting it? I was asked that question.
Ask Jalil. Ask Jalil.
What is the sum of numbers between 1 and 10? And this is, I was asked this question in an interview, and I never know, right? So I was there being all right. I just never knew. I mean, obviously I knew. I took like ad material, like formulas, series, that kind of thing. But I kind of, and the interviewer was like really struggling to help me get the answer. He basically told me the answer, right? And so so that's kind of how I got into it. And then following years, I applied to more programs.
Wait, no. Jalil still hasn't answered it yet.
Wait, 44.
So I mean, so how did you get the answer is a more important part, right? So
Okay.
Yeah, what's the process?
I'll be very honest, right? Because I saw that. Because it doesn't matter. Because I saw that Calvin was talking, I decided to use my time and I added them one going up.
yeah, so that's so there's a distribution of answers that's at the bottom of the pyramid, but it's still a good answer, right? And so it's this idea of doubling. So 1 and 10 is 11, 2 and 9 is 11, 3 and 8 is 11. There's 11 times, it's 5 11s, which is 55.
Wait, so you're wrong.
I can tell you exactly what was wrong. It's because of the way you have to interpret it. So before, when you were talking about getting into college, you said that you talked about Wall Street, right? So the only thing I know about Wall Street is like I watched a movie that came out in like 2013 called The Wolf of Wall Street, and like a dog and like in the like stock market and stuff. So what does that mean that you were working in Wall Street?
Yeah, so it's actually funny. So at the time, my mentor, so when you're doing internship, you're assigned a mentor who's like a full-time employee when you're in college. My mentor was actually on the deal that was overseeing Digital's bankruptcy. So I think Digital like filed for bankruptcy and they had like some bond that they issued, and so they were like dealing with the valuation of all that. And so to work on Wall Street means they have many different areas. I was in research. Research isn't the most well-paying section, but it's for some of the more intellectual or academic people. And so I was doing research.
We can get a little figure on that.
I mean,
The podcast is about stats, you know.
So what happened was banks trade for their clients, right? So if you're a wealthy individual, you probably have an account at Bank of America. They trade your money to make money. But how do they know what stock to invest in? Traders are more, I would say, executionals. So they want to buy Tesla, buy Amazon, right? The research team provides all the work. So all the technical stuff that goes into, is Amazon fairly valued? Is Amazon overvalued, undervalued? Is a good investment, bad investment? Is the macroeconomic backdrop good enough for me to invest in this risky asset right now? And so that's where that comes from, the research team. And I was on research, providing them with those. So the traders now execute the trades and talk to clients. They might do some analysis as well, but based on the research they get from us. So we might tell them, okay, this is valued at this, that valued at that. They might say, okay, I get that, but consider this as well, and then execute based on that. And that's really what was going on at the bank. You don't necessarily need to do that. If you're going to One Wall Street, you can do something with tech. So there are people who need to design the infrastructure that allows us to buy stock, sell stock, and execute them in real time, that kind of thing. And so I have friends who are doing software engineering, but at Goldman, for example. There are people who are in operations. There are people who are in investment banking, which has to do with like bringing a company to IPO, for example, valuing companies, not necessarily selling them, but let's say you have a startup in Jamaica and you want to go public. You go to Goldman Sachs and you ask them to help you go to market. And there's a little, I guess, like insight into how that works is that essentially the bank that you chooses becomes the underwriter, and then the underwriter kind of essentially buys all the shares of your IPO because they value you, right? Because if you come to me to do your IPO as a bank, I make money when I sell those shares to the public. And so I have an incentive to make sure it's well valued, so that when it goes to market, as a bank can make money. And so you could be involved in that kind of thing. So it's a lot. I will say my time on Wall Street was interesting. Hours were like from 6 a.m. You have to get there before the market sometimes opens. I remember.
Wait, it's okay.
Yeah,
Wait, what was that like a day in your life?
The day in the life is the following. So wake up and then be like 5, go to like walk to the train station, get to work by like 6:30 at your desk, because you're also competing for a full-time offer, right? You want them to see you're a hard worker. So you get there, ideally you're there before your boss and you leave after your boss. And so I get there, you're doing work, you probably have to like collect data, clean data, read the news, attend meetings, that kind of thing. Food was free, coffee was free, they take care of you. And then because of Bank of America policy was once you work 12 hours that day, you also get free food, and you can also get an Uber to go home. Yeah. So, but then 12 hours that was standard. Like my contract told me I have to work 60 a week, right? At the time, I think I was getting paid like, I want to say 115, like 115,000 per year. But I think maybe.
This was just an internship.
Wait, what?
That was an internship.
That was an internship, so they pay you. So that's a beautiful thing. So they pay you at salary. So for those 3 months, you can
You made 6 figures in like your first.
I never made 6 figures, but you made the equivalent of it for those 3 months.
Okay.
So if I worked the full year, I would have made that amount. But no, for those 3 months, I mean, I was nice after that, right?
Yeah.
Like you're in college. Like I remember, literally, that was my first glow up. I remember very, very really, because I mean, you have to remember, I was coming from Jamaica, coming from a situation where your mother's buying your clothes to know you're earning the highest in your family as a college student, right? But so to go back to that, the expectation is your 12 hours a day, right? Kind of thing. And then I go home maybe like on a good day, 7, 8 p.m. Um, I would actually try to work longer so that I could order dinner from the office. And then I give you like the $40 just like order food. And so that was a lot. But then yeah, and then during the last weeks, yeah, I forgot like maybe midnight most times. Um, right, work on your project, and then again there you have to present your final project to the associates and the VPs and the MDs and their votes on getting you a return offer, right? And so my year, the people in my cohort were from like Middlebury, Rice, Harvard, Dartmouth, NYU, of course, Barnard, Bowdoin actually. There's somebody who knew Amanda, Bowdoin. And I think there may be 23, no, there probably 13 of us, and 3 of us got a return offer. So only 3 of us were off to come back full time next year. And I actually hated my boss, but I told her I would take it, and I actually ended up not taking the offer, which was insane. So I got the offer, and it's a huge thing.
They returned the offer to you?
Yeah, so at the end of internship, they're like, okay, we enjoyed you working with us.
Yeah.
We want you to come back full time. And so you get your full time offer to start working typically in the US. There's a summer after your junior year, so your 3rd year. And so I had a full time job secured, like in the bag, which was insane. I was one of the first people from my schools to do it. It was a big deal. But me, I was like, that was a horrible experience. I would never want to do that ever in my life. First, I also thought that. Go ahead.
Listen, that full-time offer, was it like the same salary or did they give you like an increase and said,
it's the same salary, but they give you a bonus as well. Okay. And bonuses
bonus on the 115K.
Yeah. So I mean bonuses are really where it's really money. So bonuses on Wall Street and also in tech can be the equivalent of your salary. So 80%, 150%, that's very common. Right? And so I didn't get that, but I have very good friends who essentially would wait for their bonus to quit and I travel the world. Kind of thing. And so got the offer, turned it down, mostly because I didn't feel fulfilled in the role. It was good money, hours were insane, but they weren't using Python, for example, to code. They were using Excel, so I feel like it wasn't very like intellectually stimulating work. So I turned it down, and I remember at the time
you say it was too easy.
Not even too easy because it was just a different kind of work, and this is my mistake. No, looking back, but not even a mistake. I don't regret not doing it, but it would have been nice to make more money earlier,
Yeah.
And so turned it down, decided to pursue a PhD instead, which is essentially doing the exact same like hard work, but for significantly less money. And so a PhD is great, but you get paid if you're in a business school, which is some of the more higher paid jobs. If you're lucky, 40 grand, 50 grand a year. And so it's a very obvious pay cut, right, from some industry. But the upside is when you're a professor, you get paid really nicely from the first year. So it's an investment for 5 years.
Why a PhD? Like, that's why.
Why? I feel like I have some like intellectual inferiority complex I'm battling in the background.
I feel the same way. I think that was me. No, bro. For you, like before 6B, I wasn't gonna do accounts, but I just picked it because I was like, why am I doing 4 subjects?
No, I mean, I also I do think accounting is one of the best subjects you can ever take. I think I'm just successful today because I did statistical accounting. Like I think I'm as successful as I am today in finance because of the fact that I did statistical accounting in Jamaica, so safety accounting. Even like when it comes down to running a business, the foundations of accounting carry over like very, very clearly. Like in college, like if you did statistical accounting and did well, like a breeze. Actually, a breeze. I think Americans struggle to understand accounting for some reason. And I think CSEC is like more than enough to be like a star when it comes down to the basics. And so, if I could recommend any course to anybody, accounting. A basic understanding of accounting takes you a long way. So
So for those who didn't know CSEC accounting, which
Yeah,
is
yeah. What?
most of us.
I mean,
So
what can
I
we
told
do?
you guys, I told you guys to do it. I told you
Come
guys to do
on,
it.
bro.
do it in college, or just do math. Frankly, you can't run with math. Like that's like the foundation to everything. Yeah, math. You can be a quant if you do math.
I was leading into like one of the questions that we had coming in was like a lot of us like are kind of we like to do this thing at Campion where we look at the STEM subjects and go, yeah, everybody look at it and go, yeah, that's us. So like, what's your kind of like? You seem like really diverse in terms of your background. Where you talk about other business stuff, you talk about language, humanities. Like, what do you think like each subject group like brings to you, and like how do you like select in between them? Like being an engineer versus an accountant, like going into different fields.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And so I think I appreciate people who are well-rounded. You all go to college, and college is gonna really stress you to be very well-rounded. For example, nowadays in my job at grad school, a lot of these schools are now asking students instead of writing an essay to do a video essay to kind of see how you talk and like reason on the spot on like different issues, right? And so it's
Which
so
school was
valuable.
I don't see any school with that.
I think this school is, I think somebody actually mentioned it, and I think it's Fordham, so it's from a school in New York, right? In
You
New
know,
York.
oh, you know,
Um, and so my opinion is that I think it's valuable to be well-rounded. Frankly, I wasn't ever bad at the sciences. I did well at physics, because it's basically math. But chemistry, bio just wasn't my cup of tea or ministry. And so, but I do think it's important to at least have an appreciation for different disciplines. I think it's also important for engineers, especially engineers, people in STEM, people who love math, to have an appreciation and understanding of humanities, because that informs what you do as an engineer. For example, think of like technology. If you're interested in biotechnology, for example, biomedical engineering, like you are making things to serve humanity, right? To improve people's lives. That requires a fundamental understanding of life and like people. And so and then the lack of that means that we have issues like, I think there was like during COVID, soap dispensers weren't trained on black skin, and so they wouldn't work on black skin. And so now what the world is going with like AI, for example, if you are training these large language models and not incorporating like diverse experiences, perspectives, like literature, that kind of thing, then what we know as language will not be representative of everybody. And so I think there is a role. People are like, oh, I can just do biochem, math, physics, and good kind of be successful. No, the world is actually what was that?
That's what we're encouraged to do from like
True. Yeah, that is very true. And I feel like they incentivize the smarter students.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a badge of honor. Whereas
I
let's
feel
say you
like,
want
I
to
feel like
be,
Jamaica is trying very hard to push the STEM thing now, though.
Yeah,
I
because
know, and
you see, when you literature is almost stigmatized. I remember I placed in literature, and the guys, people were clouding me. Like, how can you place that subject?
yeah,
I get clouded.
like I don't know. I understand, because I feel like as a country we need to develop. I feel like 20 years ago the frontier of innovation was STEM. Now it's innovation changes over time, and so now it's AI. Our IT syllabus, or looking at like the syllabus as you said earlier, has not caught up. We're still learning faster, so we're very behind. Like we're just behind in that sense. I think it was good or relevant 20 years ago. The workforce has changed. Like if we're just thinking from like a fundamentals like traffic maximization like perspective, it's not in STEM. Our medical field is oversaturated, and we still don't have good enough healthcare, right? So obviously the problem isn't an input of services into this production function; it's something else, right? And so my philosophy: teach people a skill early. That skill could be anything. Like it could be, frankly, you should be teaching coding in high school right now. Coding from like grade 9, right? That's kind of where the frontier is.
I mean, if I had a perfect life, And like I just had everything going on. Obviously, I'd tried the coding from first one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I
I
agree
mean,
so much.
it's only getting more and more advanced. Today, OpenAI released their newest model. It's not gonna change. You know what I mean? And everything now is being incorporated into it, from healthcare to law to business. Everything is requiring some understanding of computation, right? And to the extent that computation is what is at the core of like progress and just like efficiency, then we all need to learn it. And so I think there's some catching up to do. I feel like the government now in Jamaica is making good progress towards those ends. At least our finances in Jamaica are doing better. It's very unfortunate
You
to
know,
see Dr. Nigel
you know,
Clark go.
I hear there's
Huh?
a job opening. I don't know if you're looking into it.
You know, um, I was a little involved in politics during the COVID era. Um, but no, I don't think that is my calling. I think I can help Jamaica in other ways. And frankly, I do have the what do you call it? I guess patience or the character of a good politician. And so yeah,
Do
yeah.
you think that
Okay.
like what happened was a good thing for Jamaica? Because I don't know. I'm not. I don't think I'm educated enough. But like to me, this looks like brain drain.
With Dr. Clark.
Yeah.
I mean, fundamentally, I think it's not because I think he's so. I think so. A few years ago, I forgot what party it was, but the Minister of Finance had a bachelor's degree in journalism, right? I think that is just fundamentally wrong. Like that don't make no sense to me. And so to have somebody who has a PhD in math, numerical analysis, who has training in finance, I think what a PhD does is it gives you expertise, right? And so I think he thinks differently from most policymakers because of his training, and that is shown very clearly. Like he's a very innovative thinker, and so I think it's a net loss. Obviously, there are some benefits. I think those are more like soft benefits, like with the network, or we can like lobby or negotiate with the IMF for future deals. But yeah, for example, one thing Dr. Clark did was, I don't know if you know what a bond is. He had the natural disaster bond, which is just insane. That's incredible, right? So now when Jamaica has a natural disaster, they can go to the bond. There's an asset that they have where people are essentially giving them money for this day, right? And so innovative like solutions like those can only come from people who have training in that area and not somebody who, went to school for journalism and want to run the country's finances kind of thing.
Right.
Part 2 coming soon.
Cup clutcher, anything them go for. Gucci Louis Vuitton, anything them go for. Cup clutcher. London, Birmingham, headman time. Bad shirt about the jeans, match with a polo, what bad. Go check your stats, easy.